Did you guys get a little prompt on
Yeah,
your screen?
yeah.
I forgot to tell you guys that. I'm sorry. That's new.
All right.
And
John
you
Mott
could-
should be here, but he may be running late somewhere.
You can start whenever you're ready, Chairman.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals for June 9th, 2021. We've got a short agenda tonight. We've got to review minutes from last month, which we will do now. Paul, you were absent, so it's incumbent on the rest of us. Oh, and there's John, to flip through the minutes. I just caught one mistake. Page 17 on the top line, proposal is misspelled. Anybody else have anything?
I know.
All good or still reviewing?
No, not for me. Sorry, I was on mute.
Actually, you know what? Page 17, the existing building in the second line.
Oh, so same page and I missed another one.
Same page.
Okay,
BUILDIGM.
okay. Everybody else still reviewing or are we all good? What's the no for? Not reviewing or not all good?
I think I'm good.
Okay, I move that we accept the minutes as corrected. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And next we have our application for this evening, which is, I am 93 North Mountain Drive. And this is for 2 variances. The notice said that it was for 3 variances, but it is for a fence that is 2 feet higher than permitted, and it's a chain link material fence. Who'll be heard on this application?
I only see one attendee, but I don't think it's the owner. Dan, do you,
Yeah,
is
the
that
wine
name
drinkers are the
familiar?
owners.
You're on mute, Dan. Oh,
No, I'm not sure if that is. The
They
owner.
raised their
I'm gonna see.
hand.
Okay.
Let's see. Rochelle, can you hear us?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Hi,
Hi.
Hello.
sorry, that's my wife's maiden name, so sorry for the confusion.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That was everybody.
We're all good, thanks. Before we start, both Mr. Monty and I are members of Ardsley Country Club, which is in effect your next door neighbor.
Yes,
Neither of us feel like we've got a conflict, but to avoid any potential conflict that you may feel, we're happy to recuse ourselves if you prefer that. If you have no objection, we'll remain involved with the application.
I'm happy to have your opinion and insight as members. We care about the surroundings.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what you'd like to do?
Sure. Shall I present our screen to go through the packet, or should I just go through some talking points?
I would say go through some talking points, but you will want to use the screen to show us where the locations of the fences.
Sure. So we recently moved here in September last year. We fell in love with the property. We actually sort of made an offer on the house without even being inside. That's how much we love the property. And, you know, when we moved in, we really enjoyed the wildlife and seeing the deer at first, but very quickly they became quite a nuisance, you know, congregating in large groups on our almost every part of our lawns, and leaving their waste behind, and bringing ticks with them. So we've pulled several ticks off of our dog. I've had to pull a few off of myself. And we're looking to do this to create a safe environment for our dog and our small child, our daughter who's 2 years old. That's the main reason why we're doing this. And what we're proposing is to continue a fence that exists, that is 6 feet high already from our adjacent neighbor, our only adjacent neighbor. And sort of curve that around, set back about 11 feet from the road, and continue that setback around to our lawn area. And then from that point, that entire fence would be sort of deer mesh. I'm not sure why it's being classified as chain link, but it's 2x4, I think, deer mesh netting with black metal pole, to be as inconspicuous and invisible as possible. And then when we get to the lawn area, we're proposing a white cedar post and rail fence that sort of will match the existing post and rail fence that is on the property already. And that will be a small section from a point to the corner of our house. So it won't be on, it won't be on the full expanse of our frontage on the street, but just sort of creating one side of our property that will be fenced in and safe. And I know the variances aren't for the fencing in the back, but we're going to fence in the back area as well so that we're protected. Now, I've seen the deer come up from the back, from the road, down from the country club. So we're just trying to, again, create that safe environment. That's the gist of what we're trying to do here. Happy to show you some pictures and give you an idea of what it's going to look like. So let me present.
Hold on. Preferences. Sorry, I have to figure out how to. Oh, I don't know this password.
Can we not present?
I don't know if we can present. I don't know.
Should be away, but I think we all have the package. Do we all have the package?
Yes.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, I really wanted
You'd like me to present? I have the, I
Yeah.
can pull up.
That would be amazing.
Okay.
Well, I had additional pictures that I want to present that aren't in the package. Let me try one more time.
Maybe just do. No, I wouldn't do that. Go back to basic. Yeah, try that.
That's really
I'm sorry.
unfortunate.
It's,
Sorry, my wife's work computer is not letting us
it's
present.
locked. I apologize, guys.
Okay, yeah, if you could pull up the package. So yeah, this is a great place to start. So this is the survey. So where the red line begins is where the fence will be, black wire mesh and metal black poles, and we're choosing that material again to be sort of be as visible as possible, and sort of continue on with the deer mesh netting that already exists along our neighbor's property, along that the line of our property. And that their fence goes all the way from the street, all the way back to along the property line down to the property that's on Osceola that comes all the way back to our house. And then where the red line ends will be the white post and rail fence that's sort of mimicking the fence that's on the wall behind the house as it tears down. That's what we're proposing. I will add that we have the full support of our adjacent neighbor at 79 North Mountain. They had sent an email yesterday. We weren't able to get it into the presentation today, but I believe Mr. Romer was copied on it. If I could present, I would show it, but I don't have it.
I have, do you want me to show the photos? I think there's some photos of example fencing.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so the black mesh netting and the black poles on top there is basically what we're proposing. And as you can tell, it really kind of fades away into the background. And even more so when there's, sort of wooded areas behind it. And then the post and rail fence below, that's our fence on our property. And it would look exactly like that, except, more towards the front in that smaller section where the blue line was. And that is a picture of our neighbor's existing fence. It seems to be metal or and then turns into that deer netting. That's an existing chain link fence that's behind us. Our other adjacent neighbor directly behind us has a 6-foot chain link fence around his whole entire property. So I imagine all these fences existed before the code was enacted. But we're not necessarily putting something up that doesn't already exist in the area.
Valerie, could you go back to the picture that's above the one that's shown right now?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same. And if we could pause there, Peter, I don't know if you had the same idea, but
Yeah,
on the right-hand side, the posts that you see there, but I'll let you go first, Peter.
no, go ahead.
So I think a lot of us longtime residents of Dobbs Ferry are very familiar with the deer issues that you cited. I myself would ask if you take a look at that post that is in the right side, it's a wooden post instead of the black post.
Yes.
With the mesh. Have you considered that? It is more expensive, I understand, but it is much more natural and fitting in.
Yes.
Surroundings.
We did consider it. The problem is that the area, and I wish I could show it to you, is very, it's rock. Almost all the area is rock. So it just makes it a little bit harder and even more expensive to go with a wood solution there. I guess I would be open to exploring it, but I'm not sure that exactly would work, as we'd be boring into bold, existing ground rock to put this fence in.
Yeah, I guess my issue was a little different. It seems to me that even though your neighbor has this fence, I think that's the kind of fence so close to the street that the code was changed to prohibit. I think a better plan would be to, you'd lose some space, but to set the fence back beyond the rock area.
If you would pull back to your drawing of that fence, maybe Peter talk to that.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is, you see the southern corner of the house that is on North Mountain Drive that's closest to your neighbor with the fence. I think running a fence directly there to your neighbor is the proper solution, rather than having a fence right, right along the street. You know, it will give you less space, but a lot of that space is rock.
Yeah, the property is unique in that it's tiered and there aren't many flat, level surfaces for us to utilize. So while that is a potential solution, it really cuts into our yard, which is really the only kind of usable lawn that we can, have for our kid and our dog. And, it's not, I wouldn't say it's directly on the road. There's a good 11 feet between the existing fence and the road. It is set back quite a bit. Maybe the pictures are a little bit deceiving. I would also mention that, we spent significant time and effort to clear out that entire area as it exists. It had been overgrown with invasive vines and garbage for decades. We've cleared it out. We've exposed the existing rock that's there. Again, I wish I had the pictures to show this. And we've improved the landscaping on the front of the house. I'm not sure if you've driven by, if you've been going to the country club. So we're trying to beautify the area and elevate the curb presence of the house. We really do not think that this fence will be visible, to anybody except for that white, post and rail fence, which I think would actually add a bit of character to the property. So we're like I said, we're really trying to utilize the land, and over time we plan to beautify that area, hopefully putting plantings, around and in front of the fence, as we figure things out around the property. And there are some trees and shrubs that the fence will kind of go behind, especially by our driveway area. So as you're driving down from the country club, it would be hard for you to pick out the fence.
There's another issue though, and it's that this issue, the zoning code, is applicable uniformly, obviously, throughout Dobbs Ferry. And we all have the issues of homeowners versus deers and fence heights. And, for me, I like Peter's suggestion and I like Paul's suggestion. And in order to sway me to your preferred approach, you'd have to give me a better explanation of why, one, you can't do what needs to be done by code, and two, why your situation is distinctive and unique from the person who might live on Price Street, or the person who might live near the high school. Why do we apply it there and not apply it in your instance?
Sure, fair point. I would say that this is a very unique property in a very unique area with very few neighbors in direct view or adjacent to the fence. I could see if this was a home on a street with houses that are lined up next to each other. Of course, this would not be appropriate. But given the circumstances that there's no neighbor directly across the street, a neighbor adjacent to us who has an existing fence in place already, a neighbor behind us who also has an existing 6-foot fence in place already. We don't think that we're taking away from any of the character of the neighborhood. And we feel like our property is unique enough where someone would look at it and say, yeah, this makes sense. I'm not creating a wall of fences with houses right next to each other. This is a bit of a unique property.
Yeah, I guess I would be a little more persuaded if we had drawings that showed the, I know you've got a number of trees and bushes. I just can't tell from the drawings
Sure. Would it be helpful if
How well
maybe I
screened that
can,
is going to be.
can I maybe email someone else the file that I created and they can present? Is that possible? Do we have time for that?
You want
Uh,
to email it to me? You can email it to me if you like, since I'm already presenting.
Sure. Your email, please.
Sure, it's V Monastra, MONASTRA
Mm-hmm.
at nelsonpope.com.
Nelson.
Pope, POPE.com.
Okay. 1 second.
Okay.
And as you're doing that, the point that I think was raised when we've approved these in the past, it's always been in conjunction with a planting plan. Setting it back a little further from road with a planting plan to cover it a bit. So I think, I'm not sure if what you're going to send us includes something like that.
Sure, certainly open to doing that. And that's certainly, in our plan to do so.
Yeah, you say that the frontmost part of the fence is 11 feet off the road?
Yes,
Because the drawings, which is typical for drawings, you don't own all the way out to the road necessarily.
right.
So, it would be helpful to see how much space there really is.
You said that the drawing, it looks like it's right up on the curb line.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not the case.
We're sending it to you right now.
And while we're waiting for that, I would support Paul's comment about the wood posts. If there's rock there, they're gonna have to get through the rock to put a wood post in versus a metal post. It kind of doesn't really matter, it seems to me. So I'd still like to keep that, if we go that route, I'd still like to keep that as an option on the table.
The club has tried to go through rock in the past. And we made the woman who you bought your house from quite miserable as we were trying to get through some rock. I would urge you to avoid trying to do anything on the rock, because rock is extremely strong, and it's going to be very frustrating to try to deal with it.
Yeah, I'm working with Steve King for Newmat Fence, who does business in the area. He seemed pretty confident that with the black metal pole, it would be relatively easy to create, a smaller hole with whatever tools they need to use. I guess I'm open to exploring the wood. I would just, say that the wood that we're going to put in obviously would be newer and wouldn't look as weathered and natural as, the fence that exists. So in my opinion, that might even stick out a little bit more.
They do sell that wood that you see there.
They do.
Sell it. Yeah, they sell distressed wood. I have some.
That's probably quite expensive. I'm open.
Yeah, I don't recall the cost of it, and I'm not, certainly you have to make that decision, but I just would ask that you explore it as we keep talking.
Sure.
I have the file, so I can go back to sharing my screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks,
Nice.
guys.
Sorry about that.
I think is this the page you wanted to start with?
Yeah. So these are the photos. So here you see the area that as it existed before we bought the home.
That's standing on your driveway or standing on?
That's standing on North Mountain Drive.
Okay.
And then if we scroll down, you can see what it looks like after we cleaned it up. Pretty drastic difference. And you can see how far back the fence is from the road in that picture to your left over there. And if you scroll down, there's some further pictures of the area as it's been cleaned up. And so, with our proposal, given the surroundings, I really don't think the fence that we propose I think it'll blend kind of right into the surroundings. But again, I do hear your point on the wood posts, and certainly open to exploring that. So again, in this picture, you can see again how set back the fence is. And we plan to continue that all the way around, and as we turn, towards our driveway, maybe if we could scroll down to the next picture. As it turns, as we go past, on the other side of the driveway there, it'll stay set back, that same 11 feet from our driveway. So, really wouldn't be visible. And this is the property, before we made any improvements to it. If we scroll down.
Actually, can I ask you, can you just sort of move the cursor along where you would put the fence, along the front?
Sure, I'm not controlling it, but.
Why don't you describe it to me, and I'll move the cursor.
I'm sorry.
Sure, if we start at the furthest point where our driveway starts, it would be even set back from there, and run, kind of up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, right there. And it would run all the way along to that big rock.
Right there, but
Yeah, a little bit further towards like where that rock ends.
yeah,
Lower, if we go down to where the rock meets the grass.
yes,
A little bit back the other way.
right there.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, kind of right there is where we would end the chain link, the mesh fence, and start the white cedar post and rail, and that would go to the corner of our house.
So it's kind of straight across that lawn, following the curve, and then right there, exactly.
Yeah, and it would arc in, towards our property. I think that would add a little bit of character, improved character to the property, and sort of match as you're driving. If you're, again, it's nobody's coming up here unless you're going to the country club, right, or coming to my house. So it's not again, I'm stressing the uniqueness of the property because I don't think we're certainly not causing any issues for any of our neighbors, and the neighbor that we do, that does directly exist adjacent to us, we have their full support.
And I just wanted to, I'm sorry.
The neighbor across the street?
No, the neighbor who we share the fence with on the other side.
No, there is somebody situated across the street. I know it's kind of a driveway, doesn't face it, but.
They're just slightly down
Yeah,
the road.
it's like a diagonal.
Yeah, they have no comment though. They're fine with it.
No, I haven't spoken with them directly. I haven't been able to get them, but they were notified, when we did the 200 feet abutters notice.
And I just quickly wanted to add that, we love the nature and the property and the integrity of the home and the neighborhood. We think that this is a real gem of a space and an environment. And, our intention is certainly not to put anything obtrusive that disrupts that. The kind of mindset that we both have is to make this as integrated as possible so that we preserve, the beauty of the street and the home and all of the greenery, and to make it kind of a welcoming and inviting home for ourselves and also the people and the passerbys on the street, because we know that there is a lot of traffic to the country club. So I just wanted to add that.
What would be the transition between the black deer fence and the white wooden fence? How would you handle the transfer from one to the other?
They'd just be kind of where one would end, one would begin. So again, sort of right.
We would use kind of the natural rock that's there to kind of transition the two materials.
Yeah,
almost.
it's kind of like where that
I see
rock.
the rock.
Yeah,
Right.
This is more an aesthetic issue for you to discuss, separate and apart from whatever zoning issue we do with whatever architect you've been working with or landscape you've been working with, whether you and they feel it would be most beneficial to stay with one material throughout or to transition at that point from one material to another in terms of this keeping the fence as a subtle piece
Yeah.
of property.
Right. Well, we certainly don't, I think what would not be subtle is if we continued that deer mesh across the lawn, right?
Right. But I'm concerned the other way around. Maybe, maybe at the right height, it would make sense to keep the wood fence going all across so that there is a continuity. In a sense, this is not a zoning issue. This is an issue for the two of you and whatever design consultant you're getting, whether it would be a visual disturbance to change the fence at that point.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not, in our minds, we thought about it a lot, clearly. And, if we stayed with a white post and rail fence around that whole area, that I think that would be very different and change the character of the whole street. And we certainly didn't want to do that. And we wanted what we were going to put in to blend in as much as possible, which is why we chose that material. And to just sort of create some consistency with the existing white fence that's on our property. We thought that area would be a good place to do that.
And I think also our intention is to kind of align it to the natural contours of the land, and maybe like put a tree there so that it blends in a way that preserves the integrity of the nature around us.
To a comment that Peter had before, why not where the rock kind of ends there and your white fence is going to go pull the chain link directly across rather than bringing it up around the rock? Because you don't seem to be gaining any lawn up on top of the rock. Maybe I'm not seeing the rest of the contour.
Maybe if we could scroll down to another picture. There's
Yeah.
some further ones
Would
might
it be?
show a little better. Yeah, keep going. So here, if we
Oh,
go back
sorry.
over here. So I guess just past that bush on the left where the rock comes down and the lawn starts to curve there, right there is kind of where we would start the the post and rail, which would kind of match what's kind of behind it. And that was the idea there.
But why not bring that from there directly across to the other fence that your neighbor has, rather than going up and over the rock, I guess.
Well, we'd like to utilize that space and again, over time, beautify that area and kind of make a sitting area and enjoy that rock outcropping, which again, over time, we would do plantings and kind of make that, kind of garden-esque.
I think too, after we removed all of the vines, we uncovered that it's actually it's very special up there and kind of, a little magical, at least for me. And we, pictured our kids climbing up there and maybe creating a little garden box or having something up there that we could utilize as a family. So we would love to keep it if we could.
If we scroll down, I'm just trying to remember if there's any other, well, there's a deer.
It looks like the family on my property.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Yes.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's some more deer below that.
I'm not 100% convinced anything we do prevents them from congregating on our properties.
Which what we're trying to do. And at the very last page is our is the letter from our neighbor showing their full support.
Could we go back to the first picture?
Sure.
Either the first or second?
Yeah.
Yes, this picture will.
Okay.
Well, no, there's one further up.
Yep. And there's one more. That one.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's down a bit.
Okay.
It was taken from the driveway, looking toward with the rock on the left and the lawn to the right.
Oh. Yes.
Yes, this one.
That one. Okay.
Is the cedar rail fence in front of that big oak or behind it?
The big oak straight directly back.
Yes, the one right in the, pretty much in the right center of the, that's the one. Yeah.
It would be in front of it. That tree is set back quite a bit.
Yep.
But again, open to putting more plantings around it to, blend it in, if that's something that the would be a compromise here.
What do you guys think here? You want me to go first?
Would you like me to stop sharing so that you can, everyone
No,
can see each other? Okay.
I think the picture is would be helpful to the conversation. I don't have an issue with the cedar rail fence going up toward the rock. I think the rest of the deer fence has to stay off that rock because although you've cleared it and made it more beautiful, putting a fence on top of that just makes it stand out all the more. And, it makes it impossible to screen because nothing you plant on that, on the rock is going to conceal a 6 foot, is a 6 foot fence. So I would be running the deer fence, from the end of the cedar rail fence over to your neighbor's property. And I think that's as generous as I feel I could be.
Okay, just to clarify, we wouldn't be running the fence on the top of the rock. It would be, actually quite towards the bottom of the rock. So we feel like we would be able to have plantings there that could conceal it. And again, the material that we're choosing is designed to blend into the background. If we go back to, if we could scroll back to the mesh fence example, I think it might be helpful to take another look and see how much that blends in. I mean, especially if you focus on the area where there's trees behind it, you really, I think that's, the best material to accomplish what we like and still be as inconspicuous as possible. Again, I'm certainly open to looking at the wood posts that were suggested and seeing it, what kind of option that is. But we're really asking that we can utilize the space that we have on a property that really, has a limited flat use of land.
I think the issue that I have is that I do see how the black mesh is meant to be unobtrusive, but I can't picture that anywhere else in Dobbs Ferry right along the street, right at the front of the property where if you're walking by, it's right there. It seems like a type of fence I associate with a side yard or a backyard and not facing the street.
Okay, if there were plantings in front of that fence, does that change your thinking?
I guess, this, I even think like the neighbor's fence that you showed a picture of shortly before, where it was black vertical slats between the posts, it looked more, just to me that looked more like a front facing fence than this material does. I don't know if anybody has that same reaction.
I do, Jeremy. I would agree with you that the neighbor's fence is more typical of what I would expect to see in a front-facing property. And the other thing I'm hearing and thinking is, while the intent at the beginning is always to have plantings to buffer the view, sometimes plantings, the variance is in perpetuity. The plants are not in perpetuity. And you can end up with a situation where the intent was to screen, but maybe not with you guys as owners, but maybe in 5 years, if you sell the property, the new owner isn't as careful with his or her plantings, and the plantings dying, and we have that. So
the deer eat them.
I'm inclined to support something along the line of what you were saying, Jeremy.
Could we go to that picture of your neighbor again, just in terms of, I don't know if you've explored that as a option, not the mesh fence.
That looks to be a wrought iron fence.
Yeah, it's a wrought iron fence.
We did not explore that. I guess we can. To me, I don't know. To me, that seems like more obtrusive than what we're proposing. But I can certainly look into it if it sounds like this may be coming to an aesthetic discussion.
I'd like to argue against that last sentence, because I agree. I can fully understand where you're coming, how you come to that discussion, because a lot of the comments have to do with aesthetics. I think that you have to look at the entire neighborhood, though, and this is a really, really unique neighborhood, a very unique street going through a very unique area. And your neighbor's side, without you coming to the table, if anyone asks about the neighbor's fence, it's absolutely an anomaly. And I'm good friends with them. They're great people. They bought the property, and that fence, I think, goes back a long, long time. But if they came to us alone about that fence, I'm fairly certain this group would absolutely say, no way, it is not in keeping with this neighborhood. And so while your fence might be very much in keeping with your neighbors, I would argue that I'm not so sure it's in keeping with the neighborhood. And we have to look a little bit more broadly, I think, than just the people next door. So
okay, I mean, when you turn onto North Mountain Drive, immediately to your left, there is a 6 foot tall black chain link fence that runs all the way up the street to where this fence ends, basically. It's covered by plantings. There's grass, there's plantings on the other side of the fence. But it exists. Also, there is a wood fence as you start driving up North Mountain Drive on your right side that is 6 feet tall, that goes goes most of the backyard of the property on the other corner until you get to the O'Day residence, where a post and rail fence begins. As you drive up North Mountain Drive and you get to the corner property, as you round the corner towards the country club, there's a massive gate and brick pillars. I know it's wrought iron, but it seems like a 6 foot fence is prevalent along this street. It may not be for the entire neighborhood and area, but I don't think we're doing something that's distinctly unique. I think there are quite a few homes that have a 6 foot fence that exists, and I understand and I realize that these are probably here before the code was enacted, but just to counter your point.
Yeah, but it's not an aesthetic point. It's more, we have a lot of instances in this village where houses and their accoutrements precede the zoning code. And it doesn't help us move towards implementing the zoning code to use those as the model we want to follow. We want to follow the model of the code that's in place, unless it's a hardship for the homeowner to follow it. And I guess I don't see the hardship either on the 4 feet or the avoidance of the chain link fence. And so I guess I'm coming from that perspective, in terms of, yes, there might be some chain link fence in the neighborhood. Yes, there might be some 6-foot fence in the neighborhood, but neither of those are the standard we're following at the current time. And I don't hear yet, for me personally, a good enough reason to deviate from where we want to go and conform to what used to be.
I hear you. Certainly not looking to set a precedent for exceptions. And I understand that point. And I think the uniqueness of our property and the location of our property, I think, is enough to deviate from that precedent argument, because we have no adjacent neighbors essentially that are in direct view or cutting off their yard. I'm stressing the uniqueness of the property and the location.
Anybody else that would like to?
Just a point of clarification, just when you began with, what are the specific variances that are needed, Dan? I mean,
It would be the height variance, and it's a chain link material. It says in our code, you can't have chain link in the front yard.
so the continuation of the white fence and the height on that is not the concern because it's set back?
No, that one's still 2. The height on that one is over the maximum for the front yard.
Right, so that would be for the 6 feet on the continuation of the white fence,
Correct,
not the material.
correct.
But to be fair, I don't think the applicant's proposing a chain link fence. There was a picture of a neighbor with a chain link fence, but I thought.
I mean, we're
Right, it's a deer mesh fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's deer mesh. I'm not sure where that's classified. I can certainly see it being classified as chain link or not. So I'm not sure. I think for us, the main variance that we're looking to accomplish here is the height to prevent the deer from coming into one side of our yard, and to utilize the space that we have without compromising it.
Can I just ask? I'm sorry. In the picture we're looking at right now, how tall is that fence?
6 feet.
And it's 6 feet for the entire length of that property?
Yep.
Jeremy, it runs from a gate that goes into their long driveway, and the house is set way back.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it runs on both sides of the property too, all the way to the back. And in fact, the property that goes to the other side of North Mountain Road where it curves, you can see that fence on the other side. As you pass the black chain link fence, it turns into the same wood post and deer mesh.
I also just wanted to add, we've certainly explored as many it is not, I don't want to spend however much money on, the fence. We've certainly talked about other solutions. We've been treating the yard. We increased the treatment to every 3 weeks. We have a music class that we have here for our daughter and for 10 other families. And I'm so scared that they're all going to get ticks on the ground. And I want to be able to have this home and the yard be as inviting as possible without the fear of ticks. And
we want you to know that we're sympathetic, as we all live with the deer problem. We're all looking for the solution. Our concern becomes of, everyone in town coming to us with fences around, it becomes a concern of ours, which is why we're trying to find a solution, a compromise. The treatments won't work. Hastings has tried to sterilize them. That didn't work. They keep coming. So, we appreciate and I think we're all sympathetic to that point. We're just trying to find one that balances what, has to be done around the neighborhood and why the code exists. But,
For sure.
if you go back to your plan and maybe just and close it out and see where everybody wants to go. And I think the concern is,
Yeah.
says we're looking at this, Dan, if we can make that wider, just to make sure that we all understand where the variances are needed. If you could, probably just make it so that we can see it, the whole area, and then bring over the left. So the rear yard, the green and purple, or
Yeah, there's no variance needed
there's
there.
no variances there. So,
No.
and then the front, the blue,
The blue, the variance there is only the height and
Right.
not the material.
I asked my fellow members, I personally don't have a great concern with that one, given the material. I don't know how others feel.
I agree with the material and the placement. But I think that's as close to the street as I feel the fence could go.
What is the height of the existing white cedar fence?
I believe that's about 4 feet.
Yeah, see, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't keep it at the same 4 feet high, Paul. And that's just,
The deer will jump it.
Exactly.
the deer will get there, unfortunately.
No, they won't jump the 6 foot though. They can't jump the 6 foot.
They will find a way.
Oh,
I've never seen an effective, or
my
really,
neighbor, yeah,
fully-
my neighbor has a 6 foot. They can't jump it. They tried.
so then the question becomes, do you go back to the village and say, hey, we've got a deer problem and we're going to change the zoning code and allow everybody to do a 6 foot fence,
Yeah.
regardless of where?
Yeah, the other problem becomes, even as you do it and build on it, if the deer get up onto that cliff, they get a running start, they'll jump a higher fence. So
The rock is a launching pad.
Yeah.
It's just,
so I can understand why they want to bring it in front of the rock too. So
What if there's a bush on the other side of the 4 foot fence, so that I don't think deer like to jump over something where they can't land, on solid
Yeah.
ground.
that actually is true, or seems to be true. I guess what we're saying is we're sympathetic, but you're raising issues for us of precedence. And, maybe it makes sense to go back, think about what you've heard, and think about how you could present something that's more fully fleshed out that kind of addresses the concerns that we have.
Okay, so
I think that would be much more productive than having us proceed tonight, because I think you have a good feel as to where this is going from our standpoint.
and if I did see a planting plan or that
Yes.
set it back as far as you could, that you've explored options and materials, I think that would make it easy.
Anything that you can show us with plants and whatnot that will minimize the look of the fence. Here you're talking about a fence that's right on the street, and that's clearly not going to fly.
understood. We will take this proposal back and revisit and represent.
Okay, and we can continue this meeting, which means the meeting remains open. And when you are ready with new plans to present, you can talk to the building inspector, and he can get things around to us.
And I would say try to get on our July meeting, because we're probably not having an August meeting, right? And I know you're
That's,
probably
yeah,
anxious
that's right.
to move along. We don't
Yeah,
want to
so
hold you up either.
There's probably some time, but there's not a great deal of time. Again, Mr. Romer can tell you when the deadline is for that.
Well,
Might I
sure.
also suggest that the building inspector weigh in on the final determination of whether that mesh fence counts as a chain link fence or not?
Yes, that's a good suggestion.
Okay, we'll, I'll go over that with Mr. Manley.
Okay, great.
I would ask, these suggestions or plantings, of course, would be helpful, and a plan for that will be helpful. I'm happy to go through that. But in terms of materials that would be acceptable, just to understand the concerns here, is it if we keep the existing deer mesh and present a acceptable planting plan, does that sway everyone towards the other side? Or are we talking about a complete material change and rethinking about how to construct this, just to make sure that I'm not chasing a bunch of different tails over here?
Well, for me, the fence on the street side of the rock is a non-starter. The fence really has to be beyond the rock, more towards your house.
So you're saying regardless of material?
Yes, because it's a fence. It's a 6-foot fence in the front of your house, which needs a variance. And since it can't really be screened very well, I'd be hard to persuade.
Okay, so it sounds like that what we propose in terms of where that fence exists is already a problem and impassable at this point.
Maybe not for everyone, but it is for me.
Need a location.
Fence right along the street is exactly what our code has been rewritten to prevent.
Yeah. I think actually out of all the materials you could choose, in my opinion, it's probably the best one, but I still have the issue of having it along the street. I realize if you go further down the road, you see other fences there. My guess is that a lot of them were just put up willy-nilly, and they don't look good. whether they got permission or not, they don't look good. So in any case, I think that you have the alternative to move it back, and I think that's probably the better alternative in my opinion.
And then you'd only be looking for the height variance. I'm not sure that it's an absolute for me yet, but I certainly would like to see that you've explored that as an alternative. We have to weigh what hardship there is, and if it's a self-created hardship, and I'm not sure how you overcome that. But,
well, I think it still would be a front yard fence unless it were parallel with the
right,
side yard.
right, and I'm not sure that all the factors are there to allow for a variance. But
yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm shut the door to it, but I'd like to see both options explored.
Understood. Well, thank you everyone for your time, and hopefully we'll see this through soon.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. And I move to close. All in favor? No, move to continue.
Oh, we have to continue. Yeah.
Move to continue. Okay.
But to end the meeting.
Yeah, to end the meeting. All in favor? Ending the meeting. Okay, we got it. And it is 8:59 for Liz's sake. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.